So, have you heard the one where I've adopted a baby? Part two? All right, so if you haven't seen part one, it's really just about the birth of Max, as well as like the process getting to that point in my life. So, where I left off was birth mother and family go this way, adoptive family, which was us, goes that way. And we have now begun our life with this little baby that is all ours. And well, actually, for the first 6 months of adoption, you are actually co-parenting with the adoption agency. So it's 72 hours that they give the birth mother and the birth family to sign off of their legal rights. So the adoption agency explains that they want that amount of time so they can really make the best decision for their family. And so that first 72 hours was stressful. And of course, once the family signed, then you don't worry about that anymore. And of course, you're going to have everybody from freaking everywhere going, well, aren't you afraid they're going to take the baby back? And it's just such not, well, I don't want to say the word ignorant, but it is the point that they don't know that the fact is that, you know, there is this process that you go through, and then once that process is done, you have to keep speaking about adoption for the independence of the child, but you're not going to have these horror stories going on in your head. And but that is one thing I did find about adopting a child or adopting a baby is I got a lot of people's opinions. My favorite was, now that you had a baby, you're probably going to have one of your very own. I'm like, oh, God. All right, this baby is mine, and unless it's little baby Jesus, I'm not getting pregnant. It's not going to happen. So there was a lot of stock statements that I had, which did help. So when someone would say something, I'd have this statement to just come off the tongue instead of me having an emotional response. Sometimes there were emotional responses, but it was only because I was a new mother. And I remember a couple of times I am this new mother and this baby is brand new. And, obviously I didn't have the baby out of my uterus, favorite word. And so people would be like, oh my God, you look great. And I'd just be like, he's adopted. Like, I didn't know how to respond. I didn't have a stock statement for, you look great. Obviously, you adopted. So, so there was that process. Like I said, he was born addicted to methadone. There were some responses to that. So he did have withdrawals. There were a few times there were some shakes. There were a few times that he had some cries, but not much. You would just hold them. You would just hold him in your arms through that, and he got through it. I kept up with like chiropractic and movements and a lot of neurological movements for a baby. I kept up with those things. But this was the time where I started to process how can I, as this mother, make my child the healthiest he could be. And this is how I got into this world of wellness was him. It wasn't my infertility. It wasn't my aches and pains. It was having this innocent child not be more damaged than he already was. So that was my goal. And the birth mother wanted to keep sending breast milk, and I was all about it. And I really wanted to keep up the breast milk, but the agency was not having it. And so I had to have that conversation with the birth mother and saying, I'm sorry, but we're not able to use that breast milk. Oh, that was hard. And I got the great idea of like, well, I'm gonna try and breastfeed. You could teach your body to do it. It did not work. I even had this like IV looking thing where the baby can suck off of a fake little nipple on my nipple. I don't know. It was ridiculous. I said it was like trying to teach a monkey to do your taxes. Was not natural. So I stopped that and just bottle fed him, and it was okay. We had meetings with the birth family yearly, and in the beginning, for that first 6 months while we were co-parenting with the agency, they would come, the agency would come and check on us. And then we went to court and that was signed off and it was done. It was done. And so as we went through our lives together, we did make a point to speak to Max about the birth family. I even made like a little book, a picture book, and he understood, he knew. And we would meet every year at, where was it? Cheesecake Factory with the birth family, and the brothers would be there, and the birth father was there, and it was good. And she was amazing. She was like an aunt, like it just, she had such boundaries and such strength, and I admire that, and I always will. And the gift that she and her husband gave to us was like nothing you could ever imagine. And the gratefulness I will always have is just immense. They actually did end up having another child after Max, and being able to explain that to Max as he gets older is going to be difficult. Why did they choose to birth, to parent this child, not parent this child, and then parent this child? It's going to be a difficult conversation. I do know as he gets older, but I have my opinions, and I will probably speak to that on as he gets older. But when it came down to seeing them, I tried to make him as ready as age appropriately as I possibly could. And then also getting him as healthy as possible with food. I had raw dairy and I made my own, all my food and all of this stuff. I was, trying to be the best mom I could be. How did his birth mother pass? So his birth mother, I think Max was about 7, so it was actually during the lockdown. She overdosed, I believe. I never got details, but the birth father reached out to us and explained that she had passed away, and since it was during lockdown, that there will be a memorial service via Zoom. And I said, I'd love to be a part of that. And he's like, well, would you like us to mention anything in the obituaries? And it was a lot. I said, whatever you feel is appropriate. So weeks went by and I still wasn't hearing anything about this Zoom memorial, which I really wanted to be a part of. She was a big part of our family. And I remember weeks had gone by, and this one night, Josh was out of town, and I'm putting Max to bed, and it just was weighing so heavy on my heart, and I'm like, I don't want to miss this. And I texted the birth father, and I'm like, when is this memorial going to be? And he's like, it's right now, actually. I'm so sorry. Here is the link. And that was from God. I guarantee it. So I got on that Zoom call as fast as you could possibly get on a freaking Zoom call. And I was kind of a fly on the wall. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. But I took a lot of screenshots. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like a cousin. Oh my gosh, that's like a grandfather. Oh my gosh, these birth family entities. I got screenshots of them all. And it was touching and beautiful. And, I did speak with Max after the fact when I felt I was ready to speak of it. And she had made him a stone necklace and told me to give this to him when it was time. So I remember speaking to Max, and my husband and I tried to do it as age appropriately as possible. And I did give him that gift of that necklace. And he cried, and he should. And I'm glad he did. And a lot of it came up for me as well. He now has lost his mother to a drug, and I lost my mother to a drug. And that also went through my head. It's like, oh my gosh, if we were to have our own children in our blood, like a birth child through my blood, there would have been addiction in the blood, just like there is addiction now. But it gave me an opportunity to speak to Max about, you know, how I lost my mother, his grandmother, and the connections that he and I both have in the world of addiction, and how sad it is. But again, it was still, I would not change anything for the world. And it was a beautiful experience. I don't speak to the birth family anymore. It's not really my choice. I put it out there, and if they want to reach out, they can. And we'll be happy to meet with them and see them. But that's my story about how we adopted Max.